Hello crochet friends, welcome to Crazy Cool Crochet. This is Sylvia, and in this project we are going to be making this crochet cable hat, and it is designed to coordinate with the crochet cable scarf, and I will leave a photo of that scarf, and it's a wraparound scarf, extra long. And I will leave a link in the white space below in the description area. You do have to open that up manually. Now this design, this cable stitch, I like to call the easiest cable stitch ever. If you saw my tutorial for the crochet cable scarf, you'll see why I call it that. So I thought this would be a perfect stitch for a hat. Now the materials, you can use any number 4 medium weight yarn. I'm using just a super inexpensive yarn here. And the crochet hook is an H or a 5mm. We'll need scissors and a yarn needle. This works up fairly quickly. Once you learn the cable stitch, which is super easy to learn, the rest of the project is very, very simple. First, let me give you a little preview of what we are working towards. I am doing this differently from most cable hat designs. My row of cables, there's only one, will go along the bottom here. This would be like the forehead area, and then we work our way up. So we're going to work the one row of the cable and then the body of the hat, and that will be in single crochets worked in the back loop only to give us ridges and texture. And as we're working along, we're going to do single crochet decreases on the edge. Don't worry, it's very, very simple. We are going to start with a chain of 9. So we will start with a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. Do not count the loop on the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Double crochet. And then double crochet in each chain. And the last one is number 6. Okay, so we've got 6 double crochets, not counting that turning chain. And then you chain 1 and turn. Now we will single crochet into each stitch. We're working under those 2 strands that make up the chains at the top there. Okay, so start with the first. Single crochet. And number 6. So again, we're not working with that turning chain. Chain 2 and turn. Now we'll do a double crochet into, I'm calling that the second space. That looks like a space right there, right next to the chain. Do not go in there. Double crochet into the next space. Now we'll start the cable. We're working into the 3rd double crochet on that first row. There's 1, 2, 3. Yarn over. We're working in between those 2 double crochets. So go into that space behind that 3rd one, back around the front, grab the yarn, pull it through nice and tall. Now pull the yarn through the first 2 loops, and you end up with 2 loops on the hook. So do that again around the same post, around the back, back to the front, grab the yarn, nice and tall, pull through 2 loops. Now you've got 3 loops on the hook. One more time, around the same double crochet, pull through the first 2 loops. Now you've got 4 loops on the hook. Now pull through all 4. So that first part of the cable is done. Now if you look behind, you're going to skip one of those single crochets. Okay, so skip the one behind the cable, and then we'll double crochet into the next single crochet and into the next one. You can see it right there. Okay, so skip that one and then double crochet into the next one. And then double crochet into the next single crochet. Now we'll work the second part of the cable around the double crochet post right next to that cable. So yarn over, go behind the double crochet back to the front, grab the yarn, pull it up, pull through the first 2 loops, do that again, pull through the first 2 loops, one more time, pull through the first 2 loops, 4 loops on the hook, pull through all 4, and now double crochet into that last single crochet space. And then chain 1. Okay, so here's where we're at. 1 double crochet at the beginning, 1 double crochet at the end, the cable, and then the 2 double crochets in between the cable. So those 2 double crochets is what we will be working with for the subsequent cable row. But first we do a repeat row of the single crochets, so chain 1, turn, enter a single crochet in each stitch for 6 single crochets, starting with the first, and 6. Again, leave that chain just hanging there. Chain 2 and turn. Okay, now this will be the repeat row for the cables. Okay, so double crochet into that second space. Now we'll work the cable, the first part of the cable, around that first double crochet that's in between that first cable that you made. Okay, so yarn over, go around that double crochet, around the back, back to the front, and you're working your cable. Four loops on the hook, pull through all 4, skip the single crochet behind the cable, double crochet into the next single crochet, and again into the next one. And now double crochet, and now work the second half of the cable around that second double crochet. And then double crochet into that last space, and then chain 1. So that was your repeat row. So the row of single crochets and then the row of cables is your repeat row. So now we will keep working the rows of cables until you have 20 cables, and you start with the first one. So that's your first cable, second, and keep working for a total of 20 cables. Now after you complete your 20 cables, you will end with 2 rows of single crochet. Okay, so you would have done your 20th cable, chain 1, turn, do your row of single crochets as usual, and then you chain one turn and do one more row of single crochets, and you will be on the right side of the work. Then you'll chain one, and now we're going to work along the long edge. We'll be entering single crochets in each space or each row. Okay, so enter the first single crochet into that space of that last row that you completed, and then enter a single crochet into the next space, a single crochet into the next, there's a space, you'll enter a single crochet, there's the next space, now you are going to work for 64 single crochets when you get to the end of that long edge. Okay, so just be mindful that you're entering a single crochet into each visible space. So every now and again, you'll see a space like that, a little space. Go ahead and enter a single crochet. If you get to the end of the row and you're not at 64, just go back, undo a few stitches, well, you'll be over here, and just work it out so that you're at 64. Now, one thing I wanted to mention. This is for a typical woman's size hat. If you need something larger, wrap this self around your head. If it feels like it's too small, well then work another row of the cables. And that'll give you another good 2 inches, which should be plenty. And then you'll have to adjust your single crochets. So you'll have to add a few more. The count is not really important as long as you are consistent. So keep working until you get to the end. And when I got to the end of my row, I had to enter 2 stitches in that last space to be at 64. So just work it out however you need to. Then chain one, turn. And now for row 2, we will be working in the back loop only. And for each row for the rest of the body, we'll be working the back loop only. Okay, so we're going to work single crochet starting in that first stitch in the back loop. Okay, so as you can see again, those chains. So that's the front, that's the back. So single crochet, and do the same for each stitch across. When you get to the end, you should be at 64 single crochets. Now you would have repeated row 2 through row 8. So you would have been working in the back loop only single crochets for 64 single crochets on each row until you complete row 8. And you would have been over here, that's row 8, chain 1, turn. Now for row 9, we're going to do a decrease row. So all you do is start, and we're still working in the back loop. So enter the hook for the single crochet into that first stitch, and then enter the hook into the next stitch, again for a single crochet. So now you've got 3 loops on the hook. Pull the yarn through all 3. So now what you've done is combined 2 single crochets into 1. So you decreased by 1. And now just work normally in the back loop of each stitch until you get to the last 2. So at the end of the row, we're going to do a single crochet decrease over the last 2 stitches. Now we're at the last 2 stitches of the row. So start your single crochet into that next stitch, 2 loops on the hook, start the single crochet into the last stitch, 3 loops on the hook, pull through all 3. So now you've decreased by 1 again. We will have a total of 62 single crochets because you decreased by 1 on each end. Now chain 1 and turn. So now we will work even. We'll work for 62 single crochets through row 12. Then on row 13, we'll do another decrease row. Okay, this is the completed panel. Let me show you how we got here. So on row 13, you would have done another decrease on each end, and that would have gotten us to 60 single crochets. On row 14, again, decrease on each end. That would take us to 58 single crochets. Row 15, repeat that again. Decrease on each end. We end up with 56 single crochets. On the remaining rows, we are decreasing in the center in addition to the 2 ends. So on row 16, you decrease on the end, then you work your single crochets. When you get to stitches 26 and 27, it's not crucial, it could be 24, 25, you just want to be near the center. So I did it over 26 and 27, I did a decrease, just the same as you've been doing it on the ends. Same exact way, except we're doing it in the center. Then continue with your single crochets till you get to the end and do your other decrease. So because we decreased 3 on that row, row 16, we are at 53 single crochets. Now we do the same thing on row 17. We decrease on each end, and then in the center, again, over stitches 26 and 27-ish, do a decrease. Continue working, decrease on the end again. On row 17, we are at 50 single crochets. Now keep in mind, you can go to crazycoolcrochet.com for the written instructions. Now row 18, we do the 3 decreases again. So the center decreases, I did it over number 24 and 25, continued, and then decrease on the end. So on row 18, you are at 47 single crochets. Row 19, do the same. I decreased over 22 and 23, and then on each end, row 19, you are at 44 single crochets. Repeat again for row 20. I decreased over number 21 and 22, and on each end, row 20, you are at 41 single crochets. Row 21, I decreased over 19 and 20, and the 2 ends. Row 21, you're at 38 single crochets. Row 22, I decreased over number 17 and 18, and on each end. Row 22, you're at 35 single crochets, and the last row is row 23. So we repeat the same thing. I decreased over number 16 and 17, and on each end. So I ended with 32 single crochets on row 23. Now we are going to seam the sides. So fold this over. Now the wrong side is up. We're going to use the yarn needle and length of yarn. Start at the top. Leave this open. We will seam that later. So we're just going to come down the edge. Insert the hook in the cornermost stitch under 2 strands on each panel or each side. I like to tie the ends to secure them. And then you can just use a whip stitch So again, working under 2 strands on each panel or each side. And that's all you need to do. So all the way until you get to the bottom. To close off the top, again, use your yarn needle and yarn. We do want this doubled up. Okay, so make sure it's long enough so that it can be 2 strands. Insert anywhere. And all we want to do here is leave a good sized tail. And bring the yarn in and out these top stitches. Just weave it in and out, in and out. Pull it through. And keep doing that all the way around. You can see it's already closing up the hole. Make sure you're not pulling these ends through. So we need them to tie it when we get to the end. Okay, now if this is not long enough, then go ahead and pull that back through so you've got a nice longer tail. And now pull until the hole closes up. You can cut the yarn here. And then tie the 2 ends securely, nice and tight. And now you can weave these ends through a few stitches and tie it off. You can see closing this off results in a cute top there. So that's it. Now what is optional, you can leave the bottom as is. It looks a little frilly, which you may or may not like. Or you can come back around and do 1 or 2 rows of single crochet. For the optional pom-pom, this one happened to be the one with the little elastic loop. So to attach it, you add a button and then the loop wraps around the button. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next project.